Hey guys, Omega here with Uniquely Average Gamers. Today we're going to be talking about the Defender subclass of the Titan Guardian in Destiny. Now mind you, all of this information does come out of the beta build of the game, and so this is all pending final release, but it's as good as we know up until this point. Because the Defender subclass becomes unlocked at level 15, the beta only went to level 8, so we don't have any actual gameplay. So a lot of the moves we don't get to see in action, which is kind of a bummer, because I would really like to be able to get my hands on some of this stuff, to be able to see kind of how it works, the duration of some of the effects and stuff like that, but we'll get into those things in a minute. So here's my Titan, and as you can see, the Defender subclass is the Void type. Each subclass is going to have a different elemental type: Void, Arc, or Fire. So today we're going to be talking about the grenades, starting off with the magnetic grenade. It's a grenade that's going to stick to enemies and have 2 explosions. We're still waiting to see kind of how much damage is done by each explosion. Is it going to take both to kill or not? Next is Spike Grenade, and this is a grenade that's going to stick to any surface and emit a torrent of damaging void light. Now, we don't know what that really is going to look like, but we think maybe it'd be kind of like a dot mechanic that will burst every few seconds. And finally, moving on to this Suppressor Grenade, this is an explosive grenade that's going to shut down enemies' abilities for a short time, functioning much like a silence mechanic that we've seen in other games. Potentially could lock down bosses, but until we get to use it, we're not quite sure what the effect is going to be. Next we have the jump abilities. These are the same as Titan class. It's a jetpack, and you can choose from increased height, increased control, and catapult, which gives you a strong burst initially, but those are pretty much the same as we've seen before. So here we've got Ward of Dawn. This is your supercharge ability, and what it's going to do is going to allow you to shape void light into an indestructible shield to protect you and your allies. Now, here's the interesting thing. When you add Armor of Light while inside Ward of Dawn, you and your allies gain significant damage resistance. This leads me to believe that this shield is actually going to be a lot like the shields from Halo. It's not going to prevent people passing through, but it will prevent damage coming in from the outside. I'm interested to see the duration of the shield and to see if it's impenetrable from both sides. But again, remember, this is speculation. The next augment that you could choose is Blessing of Light. If you walk through the ward, it's going to grant you and your allies a temporary shield. And then finally, the augment of Weapons of Light. If you go through that Ward of Dawn, you're going to gain a weapon damage increase. Now, we don't know what they mean by temporary, but this definitely is an interesting mechanic that we really are excited to see in action. Now next we have Disintegrate, and this is your melee augment. When you kill an enemy with this ability, it creates a force barrier which is going to absorb incoming damage. Now whether this is on a timer or just a flat health buff, we're not sure. Next we have War Machine, and while force barrier is active, everything that you have reloads and readies, quote, blindingly fast. I see this being one of the favorites of Dewari, who loves that shotgun, run and gun, punch a guy in the face, and then gain that reload buff of blindingly fast. Again, this is something that we'll have to see in-game, but I think that it will be very potent. Next, Gift of Light. While Force Barrier is active, any kills that you get have a chance to create an orb of light, which when picked up by allies, decrease the time until you can use your supercharged ability. Depending on the duration of Force Barrier, this could be a game changer. And finally, Unbreakable. This says Force Barrier continually recharges. Now as I perceive that means this is going to be a shield inception. That's right, a shieldception. Titans are going to have shields for their shields that continually recharge. Again, understand that this is all speculation. Moving on to the codexes, Titan Codex 1 is focused on battle recovery and toughness. All of the codexes are going to augment your 3 basic stats of armor, recovery, agility. Titan Codex 2 is focused on speed and toughness, so it's going to give you the armor and agility. And Titan Codex 3 is focused on battle recovery and speed. So armor is how much damage you can take, recovery is how fast you regen, and agility is how quickly you move. And when it comes to the codex, just pick the one that fits your playstyle. Something to note, the first and last 4 columns of your skill tree will all require you to choose one in the column, while the remaining columns will allow you to take the top and the augmenting ability of your choice. Next we have Bastion, which is going to increase the duration of Ward of Dawn, followed by Relentless, which is increasing the duration and strength of the shield created by that Disintegrate, which was your melee ability. Then Gift of the Void. As people fire on your bubble, it's going to create orbs of light. Now which one you choose here is again going to be a choice of playstyle. If you're a more defensive player, you might take Bastion to increase the Ward of Dawn duration, whereas maybe if you're more offensive and you like to run and gun, then you will choose to augment that Disintegrate with Relentless. We don't know why they didn't group the codex together, but we're back for some more, and so this is Codex 4, which is going to distribute across all your attributes. Again, these codexes are going to be based squarely on what you need to augment for your own play style. Now, I didn't get my ruler out, but my assumption, my best guess would say that you could max out any stat you were looking to. And I really like that these are so customizable down to your play style. You're not really kind of shoved into an archetype. Next, you have Titan Codex 5, which is going to maximize recovery, and then Codex number 6, which is going to give you a large agility, raw speed boost, along with a slight armor boost. Finally, we get into our last column of abilities, starting off with Untouchable, which is going to reduce the cooldown of your super ability while giving you a mild armor boost. Next comes Iron Harvest. If you get a kill with your heavy weapons, so your heavy machine guns or rocket launcher, it has a chance to create an orb of light. So again, maximizing those super abilities among your friends. And finally, in this column, Illuminated, which increases the benefits of Blessing of Light and Weapons of Light. If you remember, those are the abilities that are augments of your super ability, Ward of the Dawn, that are going to grant you a temporary shield when you pass through the ward, or grant you a weapon damage buff, depending upon which one you previously chose in your build. So rounding out the Defender subclass, we have Illumination, and this is the seal, locking all of your choices in. Bungie has talked about this, and they've said, you're no longer able to make adjustments to your build on the fly. But as we can see here, it's going to give you a pretty sizable chunk of armor. We suggest, once you've figured out your playstyle and exactly which ones you like the most, this is definitely something to consider, because that extra armor can really come in handy and allow you to optimize some of your stats with other abilities in the tree. Now moving on to PvP, we didn't get to play this subclass in the beta, but you can really see just through some of the abilities that they've got, there are tons of options to play a really strong, aggressive build with things like War Machine and Force Barrier. Those just feel like a really aggressive in your face, maybe close range shotgun builds, as well as having some really defensive capabilities, being able to kind of lock down areas of the map with your Ward of the Dawn. I see Ward of the Dawn being a really essential ability to use in assaulting some of those really difficult areas. For example, on Shores of Time, there's that center area that can be really effective for kind of picking up a lot of kills. But if you're pushing Bravo through that middle ground, there are tons of sightlines that can get you killed. And so having that kind of temporary safe zone could really be a very effective tool at kind of rushing in and getting into Bravo with pretty close to full health and not being taken out while you're trying to get there. I definitely think that we're definitely going to see some of the metagame and the strategies change around this build, and I'm really interested to see kind of what people do with it once we can actually get our hands on it. Though it's still too early to tell, Bungie has set forth a colossal task, having these different subclasses and having balance throughout, not only each class but also through each subclass. My main concern is that there will become one predominant way to play the Titan, the Hunter, and the Warlock, and if you're not spec'd the right way, then, well, you're just a noob. That being said, I know that Bungie is up to the challenge, and I'm really excited to see what they do with the final release of this game. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate it. We also appreciate the likes and subscribes. It helps us out. And we recently hit 300 subscribers, and we are so excited. We love bringing you guys this content, and your guys' feedback, your comments, and your subscriptions is really shaping the way we are doing content. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at YouAverageGamers. And if you found this helpful, share the channel with all your friends. And we will see you when Destiny releases September 9th, 2014.